Here I am, my American brothers and sisters, with another video for you. Had a very interesting conversation with a few of my colleagues on some of my videos, and actually I've read through some of the emails, and I've also been getting once again, very interesting questions, and it's growing. It's growing pretty big, and I've noticed that there hasn't been a lot of likes that has been clicked on the video or subscriptions. But I advise you to do that so therefore everybody else can have the opportunity to learn or to study of these topics that might be relative to themselves, because a lot of you're sending in email requests and suggestions, but you're not hitting that like button or you're not subscribing. So this benefit is not for myself, it's actually for other people that might benefit from your experience and from your knowledge. So in the beginning, like I always do, maybe not all the time, but just for now, I'm going to answer some of the questions because some of you want me to actually explain the questions to you, and I can't explain it all, during email, even though I will do that in all its effect. But most times it's better to go ahead and put it in video and allow you to be able to receive it broadly, because your situation is not unique to yourself. Most times our struggle is a united struggle, and it is because we're all here in America and we're all here for each other. So we all sometimes go through the similar issues. So I'm gonna go for the first email that I received, and it says, "Dear Morpheus, what do you think about women here in America?" Okay, well, what I would say is that the women of America here today is confused. They are sidetracked, and they are miseducated on the affairs of the opposite sex in which they are not. I don't want to get into the details with this, but I will say specifically, my dear email friend, is this. We have to understand the chemistry of the persons that we are. Man and woman do have a factor with integrating with each other, and sometimes to some degree, not all the degrees, some men can do, well, some women can do what men can do, and sometimes, very in a seldom generosity, men can do what women can do. But there's a variation, because you got to think about science and chemistry before anything. First of all, what I want to think about American women is they just need guidance, and they need to wake up to the reality before it's too late, before they hit the hill, or before uh, before every man goes mate out and they end up alone, or they end up um, 40, 50, 60 years old and can't find a proper gentleman, because most gentlemen aren't going to want to deal with them. It's because we realize by now how much they pretty much they carry themselves as princesses for the duration of the primitive years of their life, or you could say the most valuable years of their life. And then after they sell all their oats and chase the vanity of life, then they finally want to find them a good man to settle down with, and she won't find a good man at that time, because we are wising up and we won't be available, and the story's going to turn and the laugh is going to be on them and we will be laughing. So they need to wake up before that happens, and us men care about them enough to try to bring them to the awareness. But as you know, there's some of them who are still in Instagram, Facebook, computer confusion, because every other man chase them because they got a nice looking tail or they look beautiful, which is just the image, but the catastrophe is what's within. But as far as the chemistry is concerned, we got to understand one thing, that the woman is once again, she's science and chemistry. She's full of emotions, she's full of fluidity that is based on her biological structure of her emotions and her estrogen, and her body functions itself. So most times that's going to be tethered with the decisions that she makes. Most times. There are always exceptions to the rules, but the general female or woman, especially here in America, they have a role to play, and they are a chemistry driven force. Whereas the male, he can also be somewhat emotional, but he have a different parameter of his function, but he generally we generally function within the logical and the more of the thinking atmosphere or parameter. If he's not thinking with his love, shaft, as I like to call it. If he's not thinking with his love shaft, then he's able to think with his logical mind up here, and therefore he becomes a lot more aware of what's around him without using his emotions, because most times he's not driven by emotions. He's driven by his natural man instincts. Yes, men fail. Yes, they become sensitive, blue pill, and they're not always right. Women aren't always right, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about the general thing is man and woman is like night and day, like sun and moon, and you don't want to mix that together, because when you do that, you just bridge confusion. We have enough confusion here today. You just got to understand the chemistry of what you're dealing with versus how you need to interact with them. Therefore, you have a different understanding as to how they're talking, are they speaking, and why they do what they do. Sometimes they think men are heartless, or men don't have feelings, or we go around and have no self-control. We just ape that beat on our chest. That's not true. We have feelings as well. When we put our hands on a fire, it also burns, and we do concern ourselves with a lot of things that are about us and attenuates to our own responsibilities. It's just that we are greatly misunderstood, because understanding us alleviates the powers of other forces that want to try to diminish the man's role, or diminish men who are of great potential. And so therefore, those purposeful miscommunications trying to disconnect us from our power, even in itself, is not logical. You got to comprehend what you're dealing with before you can actually understand it at its very root. So to understand the female or the American girl, you got to understand her chemistry. You got to understand that her body is a job sometimes. Her body is it's a unique system. Not to say that it's different than the males at that perspective, but she has a lot more going on in her body. So a lot more that affects her mind and affects her decisions that she makes. Same as the guy, but the guy, he has his major responsibilities and roles is not generally in his body, because he doesn't have the carriage as a woman may have the carriage of her womb. So he's like a very, I won't say simple, because nobody's simple, but he has a non-complex system that is based on moving forward and being focused. And the universe have created him that way. The universe have created the male concept and the female concept that way, because we need each other to a certain degree. We match in whatever roles that the universe have put into place. If you mix that, then you have a mixture of chemistry and misunderstanding. You have testosterone over here, and therefore your chemistry is all over the place. Then therefore you have distortion. So I would say what I think about the woman is that she have to understand herself, and men have to understand her from that atmosphere, and women also have to understand men from their perspective. But there's been a lot of disrespect when it came to that. So we're losing ground, and we're losing ground very fast. Another question, it says, how do you heal a broken heart, Mr. Morpheus? Well, you don't have to call me Mr. I can care less about those entitlements or those respects. Just if you want to call me Morpheus, that's fine. How I feel about a broken heart is very simple. We don't have to talk about this all day. It's a very short, simple video. First of all, you have to forgive them who hurt you. That's the first step. Even if they did it once or twice, first of all, forgive them. Okay, I know it sounds cheesy, but it's real. Forgive them, then forgive yourself for allowing them to hurt you, for putting yourself in that situation. Because most times we have all the red flags that we need. Most times we have a hopeful situation. Sometimes we stick in turmoil for too long, and it turns around and it bites us. And so we feel as if we should have jumped out earlier, or we feel like we should have accepted the red flags at first. Sometimes it's not your fault. It's just being misguided. You have misinformation. And so you are hoping for something to change. You are hoping for something positive to occur, to appease to your heart, but it never occurs because you don't have the significant wisdom to know when to change your lifestyle. But still, even when you are trying, even if people warned you not to do it, you still have to learn how to forgive yourself. And with that forgiveness, I will tell you, I think this was in the Nutty Professor. Okay, and I'm gonna use that expression. The girl at the hair shop, I forgot what her name was, Miss Clump or something like that. When they was talking in that room, one of the girls, the hairstylist, said, "Well, in order to get over a man, you got to get under another." Right? You don't want to use that. You don't want to feel like you need to go with someone else in order to change your feelings for someone else. When you rebound like that, when you try to latch on to a different guy or female because you want to get over this other girl or female, you do nothing but worsen your condition within yourself. It's like a snowball effect where you're trying to make a change, but you're not really healing yourself. You're taking in more poison. The person you was already with was already poisonous. You got to heal yourself and cleanse your mind, your spirit, and your heart to forgive them and forgive yourself by changing yourself and doing something different, then being able to cleanse yourself to move on to a different relationship. If you just move on to a new relationship, that person still has you in their spirit, or you still have them in your spirit. So what you do is compile onto your sickness. So there was already a poison, and now you put in another poison. Now you are a catastrophe. You're a monster now. This is why when you move on to a new relationship, it doesn't work because he's still in your synapses. You see? For the female, she has several buttons within herself. She has buttons that we know of that's in her love tackle. Okay? And she also have a button up here. Okay? Whereas most men who she continuously latch onto, it's not because he's enjoying the love tackle. It's not because of that. That's on a general basis that's very small. It's because he wiggled his way up here in her psychology, in her mind, in her energy, where she can't get enough of him. Almost like a drug, because he's somewhat dominant, or he has somewhat of a controlling way where it just makes her feel like the little girl that she is, or it made her feel as if she didn't have to do too much, or to some degree, which is very rare, because some girls who are the dominant one themselves, and they have this guy who's not really being a man that he wants to be. The only reason why he is continuously being in her life is because she uses him as a, you could say, as a punching board, because she really doesn't respect him. But some women, they have that paternal instinct where it's just like having a child. It's just like being responsible of another human being. And sometimes if men put them in that position, then they're going to be treated like a child. They're going to be treated as if they need to be told what to do. But either way it goes, it becomes a chemistry within herself. So when you bring that over to a new relationship, she gets confused. It's like a computer that have two different types of protocols that are trying to function, and it's a wiring set. Okay? And so those wires get entangled. So what happens is, of course, this is why the second marriage fails, or the third marriage fails even worse, than the fourth marriage fails, because you have a wiring system that needs to be rewired. All your protocol and her interjections and her emotions are still wrapped up with that person in the past. It has to be cleansed first and clean and purified before it can move on to something else. So when you rebound and think that you can heal your heart by jumping from one person to the next, you're not doing nothing but compiling pancake on top of pancake. Then you're going to be filthy by the end of the day. You're going to be fat and full of unnecessary filth that needed to be washed away, if that makes sense. So it can be done. To heal your heart is to leave it aside. You got to clean your slate and start all over again. Give yourself time. We're not giving ourselves enough time. Some people think giving themselves 6 months is enough time to be with our relationship. No, give yourself a few years if you have to. If you got that time, give yourself a year. And I'm not talking about not spending time with not having what you would say a legitimately real relationship, but yet you're having guys come over to have our girls come over to enjoy your love tackle and your love shaft. That doesn't mean you're single. That doesn't mean that you're cleansing yourself. You're sickening yourself more. Cleanse yourself and be celibate. Leave yourself open for that year to study you, to focus on your task and to get yourself together and think about what you did wrong by forgiving yourself, and forgive them by comprehending that maybe even they was misled. And most times that's just it. That man or that woman, they were just raised up. They didn't know. So when they met you, they came and they brought in only what they knew. So you got to forgive them. You got to forgive yourself, cleanse yourself, and start all over again. You don't need religion to do that. Some people think just because they're born again Christian that they're cleansed. No, you're not, because when you get baptized, your behind is still dirty when you walk or you get out of that baptism. You still got to deal with your bills. You still got responsibility to take care. It's not going to change your life. All that does is splash some cold water on you and tell you to have a good day. Your relief, your life is already within yourself. Religion is just a psychological atmosphere. But your real life is when you cleanse yourself of the negativity that's actually around you physically. So therefore, you'll see the evidence of the changes of your life, not the belief of the changes of your life. It says here, you talked about the sun being related to couples. Okay, we're running out of time here, but I'm going to talk about it real fast. What I was talking about was the photosynthesis of energy and life that the sun ray beams down into the plants, or beam down into, you could say, the universe or the world or the earth, okay? And give it the food by its photosynthesis, okay? That is the same as a couple in relationship, because you are many suns. And when you have a soul, because I already told you about it in my video and my book, for some of you who don't know, my book is called 2020, America Rise or Die. That's my book. 2020, America Rise or Die. And it has my name in it, by Leon C. Leon C. You know me as AKA Morpheus. That's the book. And again, if you have any questions about it, or if you have any questions instead, like you always do, send it to my email, which is CLLEON727 @gmail.com. All those are lowercases. CLLEON727 @gmail.com, and I'll answer your questions the best way that I can. The book is for you to read and to have and to pass it on if you need to. Anyhow, the photosynthesis is based on you being an energy source and the other person being an energy source. You got negative or you got positive with them. And what happens is the positive either come together and they join and they become an even bigger ball of a sun, or they become lesser. Or what happens is when you meet that one person who's of negative energy and the other person who's of positive energy, what happened is that negative energy would stop absorbing the positive energy from that other person. You see what I mean? That's why you got to meet people with equal yoke to a degree. But sometimes you might be bright enough, just like the sun, where you can come down and actually enlighten someone. You can actually install energy in someone and give them hope, give them something to look forward to, and bring them up. That doesn't require the energy of what religion brings to you. That requires the natural God that's already within you in the universe. You understand? It's a very easy collaboration. It's already there. So there is a photosynthesis, because your real food is not what you feed your flesh. Your real food is what you feed your spirit. And what you produce from your spirit is what that other person is able to latch onto. But you got to be aware of those vampires who's going to come to you and try to take that away from you. Because vampires love that energy. And what vampires do, they love misery. Misery love company because they want to absorb that energy. So that means you'll be the energy sun for everybody. Then by the time you get home, you're going to be this black rock with no energy. You're going to be almost like the moon, where now you're going to have to absorb the sunlight or the sun ray from someone else in order for you to survive. You got to understand that. Not everything is about the physical. Not everything is science. There's one side of you, which is the flesh you, the corporeal flesh you, and the other side is the spiritual soul of you. That's why you are functioning. That's why this flesh moves. Because without your soul, you'll be limp. You'll be nothing. You see people in the casket all the time. If you ever seen a corpse, look at them. You know, or somebody who had a heart attack, if you just take a look at them, there's nothing there. You say, what happened? It looked like this person can actually get up and walk. What left? That energy, that light, that soul that was within them connect to the universe. And again, not everybody has a soul, but that's in my book as well. Now, so you spoke about on faith, elaborate on false teachings. Okay. I can't do a lot here, but you read my book and you go in detail, but it's going to be specifically like this. Everything is based on image. We are very bad when it comes to image. We care about what we look like. I'm going to tell you now, right now, my follower, my fellow people of the Americans, okay? I don't care about image. It don't mean much because that doesn't identify who I am. You know, if that's the case, I'd have an elaborate setup here, like I always say, to be digital here, music there. I don't need to do that. That's not what you're interested in. You're interested in hearing what I have to say so I can feed your soul. You're looking for empowerment. You see what I mean? So I keep things simple. But anyway, a lot of people base some things on image. But look at this with spirituality and religion. And I don't want to get into it right now as far as false teaching. But look at those. Sometimes look at the priests for a second. And there's no pun to you, preachers. No pun to the religious aspirations of you guys. But just take a look at it for a second. Imagine a preacher standing up in front of you preaching with his regular clothes on at home. He don't have his robe on. He's just standing there with the wife beater on, with a white t-shirt, right? He just got up in the morning or something like that. His hair is all mangled, and he got some Levi jeans on, right? You're going to question where he came from. You're going to question his aspiration. That's why sometimes some corporations or jobs you may work for, they suggest for you to have on their badge. They suggest for you to wear their hat and coat to express, to identify them. But you're actually just an average Joe. You're just an average person who's actually working for them. So what happens is what the priest would do, or the minister, or the pastor, or even the choir, just check the choir out. What do they have to do? They got to wear these really long robes and all colorful and everything else. But you know them when you go at home, they just regular Sue and Joe or Tommy. You know, take their clothes off and you'd be like, okay, who's this person? So imagine, just look at them for a second. Imagine them with their regular street clothes. And they all just walk up there, and then you're like, okay, you're going to start having questions. Why? Because you program to look at things from the physical aspirations of it instead of what's going on the inside of it. So a lot of time, preachers, pastors, or people who are not in position, first of all, they manipulate your mind by what you see. Sometimes you got to close your eyes and actually feel with your heart, feel with your soul, and picture them not being there and listen to what they're saying. When you begin to do that, you begin to wipe away the stigma of what did I tell you that the devil talked about? Vanity. It's a form of vanity when you have to put on a certain clothes. It's like a woman herself. When she have to put on all these long eyelashes and this fake hair, and she got to, pat her face with color matching, whatever you call it, face mascara, and then she got to do her eyeliner and her lipstick and stuff like that. What she's doing is presenting a look to you, but it's not really her. It's just makeup. Or some people say war makeup. Then you got these long earrings, but yet she may be your sister, or he may be your brother. But anyway, she may be your sister. She may be your auntie. You know her when she goes at home and she take all that off and she wipe her face off. You be like, dang, who is that? You be like, oh my God. And then when she go out there in the public arena, the first thing you'll be thinking is, oh, y'all don't know what she really look like at home. She looks like a mess. But she got all these guys chasing after her. Why? Because she realized that's the bait. Like, come on, that's the bait. I had experience one time because I like cars, and all of you are aware of that by now by listening to other videos. I'm interested in the car. And as I told you before, when you comprehend the car, you have an idea of a lot of things. If you compile the understanding of a car's mechanism and you bring that into your physical world and start thinking about it, some things will start clicking into place. But I was a home mechanic once upon a time. Just to say I worked on cars. Everybody brought their cars to me. And I had my regular clothes on. Dirty mechanic clothes, whatever the shirt was, and gloves and whatnot, okay? And I didn't have a garage, okay, to work on the car in, so I work on the garage outside. No big Midas sign or nothing like that, nothing flashy. It's just basically personal inquiries, personal people who had personal scheduling to be able to get their car work done, right? So I had scheduling to actually work on several people's car. It wasn't all the time. It was like 2 or 3 every now and then, but I had to use it as an example. So what happened was when I set up a schedule to say, okay, I'm going to work on your car, your alternator over here. I got great experience. I've been doing it for a long time, ever since I was a kid, ever since I was 8 years old. Okay. Learned this by feeling and experiencing, by comprehending and reading books. Okay. I can probably just throw your alternator and the starter in without you even coughing and it's done. Okay. Or even diagnose the problems or whatever issues you have in your cars. And I'm not going to get into that when it comes to the request, but if that ever happens, I might be able to give you some requests on your vehicles and help you out with some senses and what's the best car to buy, or what is the best investment if you should rebuild your engine, or if it's a spark plug. I might have some idea. If I don't, I can steer you in the right direction. But anyway, there was one customer that didn't show up one Saturday. And they came back. Actually, there was a connection to somebody that I knew. As you already know, you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, right? And so I came across this person and we came to a conversation because when somebody doesn't show up, I'm not going to confront you. I'm just going to walk away. The business is done. I'm not going to give you second chance. Because once you have that first up, because my time is precious. And when I set up an appointment on schedule and that person flakes out on me, okay, that lets me know they're irresponsible. My time is precious. You're done for. Okay. Either you're going to be about it or don't be about it at all. But anyway, I wasn't going to even say anything about it. I was going to walk away. So they brought it up because they felt guilty about it. So I said, so what happened to you and your vehicle? So they described to me that they decided to take their vehicle to one of the other shops, one of the yellow shops with all the yellow on the outside of it and the all the professional, you know, confetti on the outside of it. Oh, we can fix it and give you a dialogue and this and that. And then they have the garage and give you the quotes and all that. Okay, that person ended up spending at least $450 on a job that I myself was going to actually charge them only $100 for, and do the job right. And I've been known to do the job right. And I also got a backup plan where if I do it wrong, I'll do it again, because I got because I'm responsible for my actions. They can come to me and say, hey, I want a refund, or you didn't do this right. Fine, I'm a responsible man. So if I do it wrong, I'm going to fix it if I have something to do with it. So that's not the excuse. The excuse was this, and I heard it from one of their other friends. And mind you, this was a single mom. Excuse me, no pun to you. I just know that y'all think by emotions. You don't think about the consequence, because it's all about flash, right? And I'm relating this to the pastors and ministers in church because it's all about the way they look. So you respect them because they have a badge on. But yet those are the number one people who are misleading you. Because as it is in this video I just told you, a sheep is actually a wolf. The devil actually came down as an angel. Okay? The devil is not somebody who's going to come to you with big red horns where you can obviously identify them. No, they're going to come to you with a clean robe, with a bow and tie, and say, oh, I am all for you, and destroy your life. The one you need to be paying attention to is the one who's not trying to deceive you. The one who's saying, here I am, take me as I am. This is the way it is. Let's do it. Y'all just can't handle real. Y'all love being in a fantasy world. But anyway, so I hear from her daughter. Her daughter came to me and said, guess what? I said, okay, what's going on here? My mother decided to go to the such place to get it done. She said the reason why she didn't go to you was because, first of all, you didn't have a garage. You didn't have on a badge or anything. And because she said that you just didn't have all you didn't have the banner like the other shop. So she decided to go to them. She decided to go to them instead. She ended up spending money that she didn't have because of the way that the building looked, because of the way that the people were behind the counter. So she was willing to spend more money than what she needed to. She was willing to be convinced by them, all because of the way that they looked. Okay? And a lot of people do that all the time. And every other customer that came to me, it's been 100% satisfaction. Most times I don't have to present anything to you. Oh, I'm HVAC, or I'm this and I'm that. And that's your problem. Because usually the ones who get over you are the ones who saying, here's my badge. And then the first thing you know, you're paying more money than you need to. Instead of listening to people who got their feet on the ground. Some of those people, they do it because they get paid to do it. It's their job. And they're going to go out there and they're going to get their money from you. I don't do it for a job. Most times there are some people who really care about you. Most of my customers, I tell them nothing but the truth. And it's because I do care about them. And I understand that money does not fall off of trees. And there's a lot of mechanics like there's a lot of people out there like that. There's a lot of nurses who know something that some doctors don't know about. And the nurses will tell the truth because they really care about their people in a general factor. But anyway, when it comes to religion, it's like it's dressed up in a golden coat, and because it's dressed up in a golden coat, or it looks like you think you can trust it. And that's what messes us up. And the thing is about that, and I'm not going to get deep into the false teachings. The false teachings, the information's already out there, and I have some of it in my book for you to actually read and do your own self-discovery with that, and enlighten your mind as well. But the false teachings is that if they have to come to you with a robe on, or feel like they have to be pristine and comb their hair in order to be with you, that's also a form of a lie. Everybody want to look good. Trust me, image is important. Yeah, it has its significance, but it's not as important as being able to deliver the activity of what you're doing, not what you see what's doing. Because most of those places, they'll leave you without oil in your car and claim that they changed the oil and you stuck on the road somewhere. And the first thing that happened, I know this because I have the documentation. The first thing that happened, they'll say, well, I just got my oil changed a week ago. I'm like, uh-huh. Okay. Did you check? No, but they said they did it for 30 years and they be in business and okay. All right. But because you went there, because why? They had a bat, they looked nice, impressed. They looked great, right? Had this old big sign on the outside. And I'm not gonna say no names of any type of mechanic shops here, but I'm just saying you can imagine big yellow building and orange banners, and they got like 50 cars out there, and you just want to go there because it looks good, but you're spending more money than what you really have to, but you broke. So when you relate that to the religion aspiration, it's by image. So when you look at some of the priests, just close your eyes and take the clothes off of them. Not literally, but just imagine them just with their regular street clothes on. They just get up in the morning and they open up their Bible. You're in the front room of their house, right? And they're talking to you about their religion from the front room of their house with regular clothes on. Imagine how many people are not going to follow that person. Imagine how many people are not going to believe that person because they don't dress up for the position. They don't dress up for what they are trying to represent. But if somebody is speaking the truth, if they are spitting hot fire, if they are telling what you need to know, it doesn't matter what they're wearing. You are actually getting fed from them. You're actually learning something. But do we usually go that atmosphere? And we wonder why the quality of our life is so low, because we're based on image. We're based on what looks good. Y'all walking away with big vases of look like gold vases that's supposed to be dipped in gold. All they did was spray paint it. But you're not getting to the girth of things, that is it actually made out of pure gold, which is the action and the faction of the truth and the history of the thing. All right, enough ranting on that. I had a request from another. It says, request.